Hello there, I'm Victoria Williams, and in this video I'm going to explain to you how time signatures work. Now, a lot of people think they understand time signatures because they know what 4/4 means and 3/4 means, but when they have to tell the difference between, let's say, 3/2 and 6/4, they find themselves in a bit of a muddle. So hopefully this video will explain everything that you need to know in order to distinguish the differences between all the time signatures that there are. Let's go. You most likely already know that the time signature 4/4, for example, tells you that there are 4 crotchet beats per bar. You probably know that it's the top number 4 that tells you how many beats there are in the bar, and it's the bottom number which tells you what kind of notes we're counting, and 4 represents the crotchet beat. In the same way, the time signature 2/4 tells you that there are 2 crotchets per bar, and 3/4 tells you that there are 3 crotchets per bar. The lower number of the time signature will normally be 2, 4, or 8. If the lower number is 2, that means you need to count minims. If the lower number is 4, you'll count crotchets. And if the lower number is 8, you'll need to count quavers. What you might not realise though is that the top number of the time signature doesn't only tell you how many beats per bar there are, it also tells you how each of the main beats of the bar should be divided up into smaller units. So if the top number is 2, 3 or 4, this means that the main beat has to be divided into 2 equal notes. In the diagram here, the large blue circle shows you how many beats per bar there are, and the smaller circles show you how each beat is divided up. And when the main beat is divided into 2 like this, we say that it is a simple time signature. In a simple time signature, the top number is the number of beats. On the other hand, if the top number is 6, 9 or 12, this means that the main beat has to be divided into 3 equal notes, not 2. Here the diagram shows you how each main beat is subdivided into 3 smaller equal subbeats. This is called a compound time signature when the main beat is divided into 3. When the main beat is divided into 3, the top number of the time signature actually tells you how many subbeats there are and not how many main beats. So far, all of the time signatures we've looked at have had 2, 3 or 4 main beats, either divided up into 2 or into 3 smaller subbeats. These time signatures are called regular time signatures. If there is a different number of main beats, let's say 5, 7, 11 beats in the bar, then this is called irregular. Let's have a look now at some examples. Here are 3 time signatures, each with a top number 3. Remember that the top number 3 tells us that there will be 3 main beats per bar and that the main beat will be subdivided into 2 equal smaller notes. The difference is that in 3/8 we have 3 quaver beats per bar, and each quaver is subdivided into 2 semiquavers. In 3/4 there are 3 crotchets per bar, and each crotchet is subdivided into 2 quavers. And finally 3/2 tells us that there are 3 minims per bar, and so each minim is subdivided into 2 crotchets. Now let's have a look at some time signatures with the top number 6. Don't forget that when the top number of the time signature is 6, 9 or 12, we're looking at compound time. This means that the main beat is divided into 3 instead of 2, and the top number of the time signature tells you the total number of subbeats. So what does 6/8 tell us? It tells us that there are a total of 6 quavers in the bar, that quavers are the subbeat, not the main beat, that 3 quavers will make up 1 main beat, and therefore 1 main beat must be a dotted crotchet. 6/8 represents 2 dotted crotchets per bar, which are each subdivided into 3 quavers. And so how about 6/4? What does that tell us? Well, it tells us that there are 6 crotchets in the bar. Crotchets are the subbeat, and 3 of them will make up a main beat. You can work that out, that a main beat then is a dotted minim. There are 2 dotted minims per bar, and each one is subdivided into 3 crotchets. The way that the main beat is divided up is one of the most important things that you need to understand about time signatures. So here are the rules again. When the top number is 2, 3 or 4, it's simple time. The main beat divides into 2, and the top number is equal to the main beats. But if the top number is 6, 9 or 12, it's compound time. The main beat is divided up into 3. The top number of the time signature tells you the number of subbeats. What all this means is that although there are 6 different possible top numbers in regular time, in fact there are only 3 kinds of main beat. If the top number is 2 or 6, then there are 2 main beats per bar, and it's duple time. If the top number is 3 or 9, there are 3 main beats per bar, and it's triple time. And finally, if the top number is 4 or 12, there are 4 main beats in the bar, and it's quadruple time. There are lots of time signatures that seem to overlap. They have the same overall number of notes per bar. For example, take 3/2, 6/4 and 12/8. If you count up the number of quavers in each bar, there are 12 in all of them. So how can you tell the difference between these 3 time signatures? Well, the answer lies in the way that notes are grouped together. You need to look at beaming, which means the way that quavers, semiquavers and smaller notes are grouped together. You need to look at the particular choice of note or rest value, and also at ties for clues. Let me show you an example. So here, if you counted up the quavers in this bar, you'd find that there are an equivalent of 12 quavers. What we need to do is try and figure out how many main beats there are in the bar. And we're going to do this by looking first of all at the beams. Look at how the beaming has been broken between the quavers. The red box shows you the break. So we've got 2 quavers beamed together, then a break, then 4 quavers beamed together. The note in the green box is going to be the first note of a new main beat of the bar. This means we can eliminate the time signature 3/2 from our inquiries, because there is no way to divide this bar into 3 main beats and have that note as the first note of a main beat. So the green box shows us the start of a new main beat. So this means at the moment we've got 6 quavers before that and then 6 quavers from that. What we need to figure out next is it 6/4 or 12/8? Is it duple time or is it quadruple time? Let's test out quadruple time. Is it possible to divide this bar into 4 equal segments? Remember that in 12/8 the 4 equal segments will be a dotted crotchet's worth each. So no, it's not easy at all to divide this bar up. The first note is a minim. We can't really split a minim into a dotted crotchet. In the second half of the bar we've got 4 quavers beamed together, but we only would need 3 quavers to make a dotted crotchet beat. It doesn't divide up neatly. Since we can't actually divide this bar up into 4 beats, it can't be quadruple time, so it's not 12/8. And we already saw it wasn't 3/2, which means that this is a 6/4 bar. And this is what the notes would look like if it had been in 12/8. Look at the difference in how the notes are grouped together. The first note is worth 4 quavers. In 6/4, a minim works fine. However, in 12/8, the main beat is a dotted crotchet, so we need to use a dotted crotchet beat first, and then tie that to what's left over, which is a quaver, to make up the full value of the note we want. In the same way, we can easily divide up the 12/8 bar into the 4 dotted crotchet beats by drawing blocks around the notes like this. Remember that when there is a tie, the second of the tied notes will be the start of a new main beat or a new block, and that if there is a break in the beam, this will show you where a new main beat is going to start as well. So we now know that in simple time, the main beat is always divided into 2. But sometimes we might want to divide the main beat up into 3 from time to time, and we can do this with a triplet. To make a triplet, all you need to do is make it clear which notes are affected. You can do this by using the beam on quavers or by drawing a bracket over the notes, and then writing a small number 3. This is what a triplet with a bracket looks like. The crotchet and the quaver together make up one beat. In compound time, we have the opposite problem. The main beat is always supposed to divide up into 3, but we can divide it into 2 if we want to by using a duplet. A duplet means that 2 notes are written in the time of 3. Here's an example in 6/4. Remember that 6/4 means that there are 2 dotted minim beats per bar, and each of those main beats is divided up into 3 crotchets. In the second bar, there's a duplet. This means that the 2 crotchets here should be played in the time of 3 normal crotchets. So that's how time signatures work. In your grade 5 music theory exam, you'll be tested on time signatures in quite a few different ways. So let's have a look at the kind of questions that will probably come up in your exam. Most likely you will be given some bars and you'll need to work out what the time signature is. You'll be given some bars with the time signature and you'll need to put in the bar lines. You will probably have to rewrite part of a rhythm in a new time signature without changing the rhythmic effect. You're very likely to get some questions on the technical names of time signatures. For example, is it simple or compound? Is it duple, triple or quadruple? You might be asked to add rests to a bar, and the specific rests that you need will depend on the time signature. And apart from all that, your knowledge of time signatures is tested in the composition question as well. You'll be expected to use the right notation in your composition to reflect the time signature. So that means that the right note values are used, the right notes are beamed together, the right rests are used, and so on. The tempo that you choose for your composition has to be suitable for the time signature of the piece. And last but not least, if the composition has an anacrusis, otherwise known as an upbeat or a pickup, then this has to be taken account at the end of the piece with a bar which has a different number of beats in it, and this all depends on the time signature as well. Each of these questions I'm going to talk about in more detail in the next videos, so check out the next videos for the grade 5 questions on time signatures.